in my life. This is my time. Step up, rise up, fight first, bring it on.
Welcome to the next episode of Remus Talks. Looks like somebody's gonna get their lucky wish today, aren't they? 'Cause people actually wanted me to rip into him today. Not surprising, seeing as he decided to enter into another one of the comment wars that you can see down in one of my posts. We all know who it is if we've been keeping up, don't we, ladies and gentlemen? That person is Crysis. Now, usually, when it comes to all the wrestlers in SWF, when it comes to these, I start with, where did I first meet them? You want to know something funny? When it comes to him, I genuinely cannot remember the first time even that I met him. I can remember the first time I met James Westney. I can remember the first time that I met Crimson. I can remember the first time that I met nearly every single wrestler in SWF, but I can't remember when I first met him. You want to know why? It's pretty simple, really. Compared to everyone else in SWF, despite his claims of being in SWF for 5 years, I look at him and I wonder, what have you got to show for the 5 years that you've been in SWF? Yeah, leave all the titles that you've had in the past, because they're not yours anymore. The ones that you have, you hold on by fluke, and by barely even defending them in the first place. I also remember you holding on to the Intercontinental Championship for about a month, maybe a little bit more, and then you got squashed by Kieran Hayes. Well done, boy. Well done. Although, thank you for taking it off of Luke Tyler, the ungrateful little twat. Yeah. I mean, I remember seeing him somewhere, but I can't remember what that first time ever was, because if it's anything like what he is, he's uninspiring. You see, from what people can gather from Crysis, he's very much in the shadow of his older brother, and as much as people will try and deny it on his end and from Crimson's end, everyone else can see, whether they like him or not, that he is not as good as Crimson. That he is the little brother in this situation, that he is in his shadow, that he is always 10 steps behind every step of the way. Crimson will always be up here, whilst Crysis is always trying to catch up from down here. And it's the truth. It's not me making up facts. It's not me with my own personal point of view. It's just fact at this point. Fact, fact, fact. And that's something he's just going to have to learn to live with. And it doesn't help. It doesn't help when he joins his brother in the formation of a tag team. Not one bit. It didn't help Tommaso Ciampa when he teamed up with Johnny Gargano, just so then he could get a little bit more prestige and fame, because all it did was give all that prestige and fame to Johnny Gargano. No, it didn't work. People look at Crimson before they look at Crysis in the Demon Nation, and there's good reason for that, and as much as I think he's a pile of shit, Crimson knows what he's doing. He knows how to work the crowds. He knows how to get people on his side. And Crysis, you're about as uninspired as they come. Crimson at least came up with his own thing. As for you, Crysis, you just pretty much copied Crimson all the way through, didn't you? From the face paint to the get-up, even though it's not as red as his. And his hardcore attitude. That's something that you mimicked as well. I can understand Crimson's because he hung around with Leo Libra all the time, another piece of shit within SWF, who thankfully is no longer with us. But you just mirrored him. You made it as if it was your own, when in fact it was your brother's, because you looked at him and you thought, oh, he's doing this, and it's worked. So if I do it, it'll work for me as well. That's what you thought in your head, whether you want to admit that or not. The problem is, you aren't Crimson. You aren't your older brother. You are you. And until you realize that, you will always be in his shadow. You think you can step up to me? You think you can take me on? And whilst I'm more than happy to be in a match with you, I can't remember the last good match that you've ever been in. You don't perform as well as I do, you don't put in the work half as much as I do, and you rest on your laurels. You put your 5 years in front of everyone and say, look, I've been in here for 5 years. Well, guess what? I've been in here for 6 months and I've already made impacts, and I'm going to keep making impacts because I don't mince my words. I keep going every single time. You're just quite happy to sit back and smoke with all your friends and just enjoy the easy life, whilst I'm always working, I'm always training. And so what if I go to other places to train? So what? If I'm going to improve myself, and if I'm going to be going off 10 years down the line into other places, I'm gonna need every single skill and every single talent that I can get my hands on. And as much as I am already talented and skilled as it is in the first place, there is always someone better. But for me, that person isn't you. You aren't better than me. You aren't better than Robert DeCaro. You aren't better than half the damn roster in SWF. You cruise by. You rest upon your laurels. You use your titles as an excuse to try and make yourself seem like something more important than you aren't. Titles do not make the person. Person makes the titles. And right now, the UK Championship doesn't mean anything in your hands. I don't see people coming after it. Sidesplit is having to put people in matches with you to at least try and get that UK Championship some credibility. Yeah, sure, you can defeat Luke Tyler's tag team partner, I still can't remember his name, in 10 seconds. Sure, why not? It's him. I'm sure everybody could defeat him in 10 seconds except for Luke Tyler. So maybe you're just slightly better than Luke Tyler, which explains why you got the Intercontinental in the first place, but then lost it straight away to Kieran. And you better be listening to every single one of these words that I'm putting out here. Every single one of them, because it's nothing but truth. Nobody else has made me quite as angry as you have. And the reason is because of the exact reasons I've already stated before. You think you're better than you actually are when you're not. You're not that talented, you're not that brilliant, and you're not as hot shit as you think people think of you are. You are not that good. People don't like me, but that's different from acknowledging what I can do inside that ring. That's different from acknowledging everything that I've been able to put in so far. Just because you don't like me doesn't take away from the fact that I am hot shit, and I always will be for many, many years to come. And you're just jealous that I can take my own thing and turn it into something better than you could in 5 fucking years. That's the truth of the situation, Crysis, and you bloody well know it. Robert DeCaro knows it, Richard Knights knows it, Sidesplitter knows it. You're too much up his ass for him to actually tell you differently. And that's the truth of the situation. And Crimson is too embarrassed of you to actually say anything at all. He's just quite happy to let you coast along, because as long as he looks good, he doesn't have to worry about you. But if he did, he'd be embarrassed by you. He'd be embarrassed to the core. and he'd wished that he'd have a different little brother inside that ring with him. Hell, if I was him, I'd be feeling exactly the same. But thankfully, I don't have to worry about any other siblings. Not in wrestling, at least. But if you always want to be better, well, you can either go to these loathed companies and train as hard as I do, or you could put aside your little petty differences and join the society. We're always looking for new members, and I can be a very forgiving person. Just trust me on that, because I can go from this nice, smiling, calm, cool, collected, friendly, into someone who would be more than happy to tear you apart, leave you mangled inside the ring, and leave you as an example of why you should never get in my way, as an example that when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And that is something for you to think about. Because if you're going to enter the ring with me after you've had your match with Decaro, well, I don't want a singles match. And I'm not going into a retirement match with you either. I have no reason to, and you don't have any reason either. You just want me out of the company. And I'm not going to fall for little childish schemes of yours. No. You better come back with a different offer. Or unless you forgot about that one. Because as you can quite clearly tell, I've got a good memory. Tick-tock, the clock is ticking away. So you better come up with a good one fast. Because after I take care of the match that's coming at WrestlePalooza, and then I take care of the tag team that's been assembled before me with Decaro at the next event, my slots are free and available. And whilst I'm more looking towards Side Splitter in the World Heavyweight Championship, we're on 5 right now, Side Splitter, get your shit together, I'm more than happy to fill that slot with you. No one else, just me and you. And if anybody else gets involved, even Decaro, I'll make sure to put them back into their place. Because in this I'm the Alpha Wolf, and you're just one of the Omegas, and you're trying to bark and make yourself known and make yourself the Alpha, but little did you know that the Alpha hasn't fed yet. And the Alpha is hungry. No, starving. And would love nothing more than to tear apart the Omega and feast upon their entrails. And that's exactly what I'm going to do to you, Crysis. So you would better hope that by then, you take me more seriously than anybody else ever has. Because it won't be a match, it'll be a massacre. And it'll be one where your brother won't recognize you at the end of it. That's unless, of course, you decide to change your mind and join me instead. Abandon your brother and become someone new. The choice is always there for you. Leave a like, share, and subscribe. And click up here, so you can choose which wrestler I should talk about next. And click the bell icon, so you can stay updated with all future videos. Don't forget, Lawrence, we're on 5 now. So you better be responding quick. This has been Remus Talks. And I'll see you all in the next episode.